I turned off the engine and sat in silence, my breath fogging the windshield. 3:15 in the morning. The Flying J truck stop glowed like a beacon against the black Saskatchewan prairie, and I'd stopped here 1,000 times in my 42 years of long-haul trucking. But tonight felt different. Maybe it was the ice forming on my wipers, or maybe it was the fact that I'd been on the road for 19 hours straight, pushing to get this load to Winnipeg before dawn. Either way, something made me look twice at the girl standing by the vending machines. She was maybe 7, 8 years old, alone, wearing a thin jacket that wouldn't keep out the October cold, no parent in sight, and she wasn't moving, just staring at the machine like she'd forgotten why she was there. I grabbed my thermos and climbed down from the cab. My knees protested. 63 years old, and every joint reminded me of it. The wind cut across the parking lot, carrying the smell of diesel and frost. I approached slowly, not wanting to scare her. "Hey there, sweetheart. You okay?" She turned to look at me, and that's when I saw the bruises. Dark purple marks peeking out from under her collar, a cut on her lip, and her eyes, God, her eyes looked like they belonged to someone who'd seen things no child should ever see. She didn't speak, just stared at me with those hollow eyes. "Where's your mom and dad?" I asked, crouching down to her level. My back creaked, but I ignored it. She shook her head slowly. Then she did something that made my blood run cold. She reached into her jacket pocket, pulled out a ballpoint pen, and grabbed my hand. Her fingers were ice cold and trembling. She pressed the pen to my palm and started writing. "Do en leit u en clay, dale fien de me." My throat went dry. I looked around the parking lot. About 20 rigs parked in the rows, most with their running lights off. Drivers sleeping, a few cars, the cashier visible through the windows of the truck stop convenience store, reading a magazine. "Uncle Dale," I said quietly. "Where is he?" She pointed toward the far end of the lot. Row 7. I squinted and saw a Freightliner with Ontario plates. The engine was running, exhaust puffing into the frozen air. As I watched, the driver's door opened, and a man climbed down. Big guy, maybe 50, wearing a ball cap and a plaid jacket. He stood there scanning the lot, and even from this distance, I could see the tension in his posture. He was looking for something, looking for her. "Listen to me," I whispered to the girl. "My truck's right there. The blue Kenworth with the maple leaf on the door. Can you see it?" She nodded. "I want you to walk over there, real casual. Don't run, just walk. Climb up and lock the door behind you. Can you do that?" She hesitated, then nodded again. "Go now. Slow." She moved away from me, small and fragile against the harsh lights of the parking lot. I watched her reach my truck, glance back once, then climb up. The door closed. I saw the locks engage. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911, keeping my eyes on the Freightliner. The man was walking now, moving between the rows of trucks, checking each one. 911. "What's your emergency?" "I'm at the Flying J on Highway 1, just east of Moose Jaw. I've got a little girl here. Looks like she's been abused. Says someone named Uncle Dale is looking for her. He's here now, in the lot." "Sir, can you describe the child?" "Maybe 7, 8 years old. Brown hair. Wearing a pink jacket, too thin for this weather. She's got visible bruises." "And where is the child now?" "In my truck. She's safe for the moment." "Sir, I need you to stay on the line. Units are en route. Do not approach the individual. Do not." The man was closer now, row 6, 1 row away from where I stood. He was calling out, voice carrying across the lot. "Emma, Emma, honey, Uncle Dale's worried about you." Emma, so that was her name. "I can see the girl from here," the dispatcher said. "Sir, the officers are approximately 8 minutes away. I need you to stay where you are, and—" "8 minutes," I said. "He'll find her in 2. I ended the call. Probably stupid, but I've never been good at following orders. Not when someone needs help. I started walking toward the Freightliner, my work boots crunching on the frozen pavement. The man saw me coming and stopped. "Help you?" he asked. His voice was friendly, but his eyes were calculating. "Saw you walking around," I said. "Everything all right?" "Looking for my niece. Little girl, brown hair. She got spooked by something and ran off while I was in the John. You seen her?" I kept my expression neutral. "Lots of kids come through here. What's she wearing?" "Pink jacket. Got a butterfly on the back." That detail he knew, because he'd seen her recently. My gut tightened. Haven't seen anyone like that, I lied. But I just got here myself. Cashier might have seen something. He looked at me for a long moment, weighing whether to believe me. Up close, I could see the hard set of his jaw, the coldness in his eyes that his smile didn't reach. This wasn't a worried uncle. This was a predator. Appreciate it, he said finally. Then he turned and headed toward the store. I walked quickly back to my truck. Emma was in the passenger seat, knees pulled up to her chest, shaking. Not from cold, from fear. He's gone for now, I said, climbing in. Police are coming. You're safe. She didn't respond, didn't even look at me. I pulled a blanket from behind the seat and draped it over her shoulders. Then I grabbed my thermos and poured hot coffee into the lid. Here, warm your hands on this. Don't have to drink it if you don't want. She took it with trembling fingers, wrapped her small hands around the makeshift cup. I'd been driving trucks since I was 21, seen a lot in those years. Accidents, deaths, strange things on the road that made you question what was real. But I'd never seen anything like the fear in this child's eyes. My phone buzzed, the dispatcher calling back. I answered, Sir, I need you to confirm your location, and Flying J, east of Moose Jaw. I've got the girl in my truck. The man's in the convenience store. You need to tell your officers to hurry. They're 6 minutes out. Sir, did you identify yourself to the suspect? No. He thinks I'm just another driver. Good. Keep it that way. Do not engage. Do not. Through the windshield, I saw Uncle Dale exit the store. He was on his phone now, talking animatedly. Then he started walking back toward the lot, but not toward his own truck. He was heading toward mine. He's coming, I said into the phone. Sir, lock your doors and... I hung up again. Locked the doors. Emma's breathing had gone shallow and fast. Dale reached my truck and knocked on the window. I rolled it down 3 inches. Yeah? Sorry to bother you again, friend. Cashier said she saw a little girl matching my niece's description heading this way about 10 minutes ago. You sure you didn't see anything? Like I said, just got here myself. His eyes flicked to Emma, huddled under the blanket. For a second, I thought he'd recognized her, but the blanket covered most of her face, and the cab was dark. That your granddaughter? He asked. That's right. She okay? Looks pretty scared. She doesn't like truck stops at night. Too many strangers. Dale smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Smart kid. Can't be too careful these days. No, you can't. He stood there another moment, and I could see him calculating, trying to decide if I was lying. My hand moved slowly to the gear shift. If he tried anything, I'd start the engine and get us out of here, police or no police. Then, in the distance, I heard sirens. Dale heard them too. His expression hardened. Well, if you see a little girl, let the authorities know, would you? Will do. He walked away quickly, heading back to his Freightliner. By the time the RCMP cruisers pulled into the lot, lights flashing, his truck was already moving, pulling out onto the highway heading east. 2 officers approached my truck. I rolled down the window all the way this time. Sir, I'm Constable Morrison. You, the one who called 911? That's right. Girl's here with me. Name's Emma, according to the man who was looking for her. The female officer, whose nameplate read Constable Hayes, opened the passenger door carefully. Emma, my name is Sarah Hayes. You're safe now, sweetheart. Nobody's going to hurt you. Emma didn't move. Didn't even look at her. Hayes glanced at me. How long has she been nonverbal? Since I found her. She wrote on my hand instead of talking. I showed her my palm. The letters were smudged now, but still visible. Hayes's expression darkened. Can you describe the man? I gave them everything. The Freightliner's make, model, plate number, Dale's description. Morrison radioed it in immediately. We've got units setting up roadblocks on Highway 1, he said. He won't get far. But I wasn't so sure. These highways stretched for hundreds of kilometers. If Dale knew the back roads, he could disappear into the prairie like smoke. Hayes managed to coax Emma out of my truck. She wrapped her in a thermal blanket and guided her toward the cruiser. But before she got there, Emma pulled away and ran back to me. She threw her arms around my waist and buried her face in my coat. My heart cracked. I crouched down and hugged her back. You're going to be okay, sweetheart. These officers are going to help you. She pulled back just enough to look at me. Then she pressed something into my hand. A small piece of paper, folded tight. She'd been carrying it in her jacket. Hayes saw it. Emma, what's that? Emma shook her head and closed my fingers around it. I'll keep it safe, I promised. She nodded, then let Hayes lead her to the cruiser. Morrison stayed with me. We're going to need a full statement, Mr. Sutherland. Robert Sutherland. Mr. Sutherland. Can you walk me through exactly what happened? I told him everything while the dispatcher brought me terrible coffee in a styrofoam cup. I didn't touch it. By the time I finished, my voice was hoarse and the adrenaline was wearing off, replaced by a bone-deep exhaustion. You did the right thing, Morrison said. Most people would have walked past her. Most people aren't fathers, I said, then caught myself. Was a father. My daughter died 12 years ago. Car accident. Morrison's expression softened. I'm sorry. She'd be 28 now. Had a little girl of her own, I imagine. Maybe looked just like Emma. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Morrison's radio crackled. All units, be advised. Suspect vehicle located abandoned on Range Road 142, approximately 40 kilometers east of Moose Jaw. No sign of driver. K, 9 units, en route. Morrison swore under his breath. He dumped the truck. So he's on foot? Or he had another vehicle stashed? Or someone picked him up? Morrison stood. Mr. Sutherland, I'm going to need you to stay in the area for at least 24 hours. We'll want to interview you again, and you may need to identify Dale if we catch him. What about Emma? She'll be taken to Regina General, examined by doctors. Social services will take it from there. And if Dale's part of something bigger? If there are more kids? Morrison hesitated. What makes you say that? I opened my hand and showed him the paper Emma had given me. I hadn't unfolded it yet. May I? Morrison asked. I handed it to him. He unfolded it carefully, and his face went pale. It wasn't a note. It was a drawing. Crude, like a child's sketch, but clear enough. It showed a room with cages. Small figures inside the cages. 7 of them. And in the corner, a location. A barn with a specific symbol on the door. Something that looked like a triangle with a circle inside. Jesus, Morrison breathed. That's not the drawing of a girl who escaped once, I said. That's the drawing of a girl who's seen this happen before. Morrison was already on his radio. I need to speak to Detective Whitmore immediately. We may have a trafficking situation. The next 6 hours were a blur. I gave my statement 4 more times to 4 different people. Detectives, RCMP officers, someone from the Provincial Task Force on Human Trafficking. They took the drawing, photographed my hand where Emma had written. Asked me to describe every detail of Dale's appearance. His voice, his mannerisms. Around 9 in the morning, Constable Hayes found me in the truck stop diner, nursing my 5th cup of coffee. This one I actually drank. Tasted like burnt dirt, but it was warm. Mr. Sutherland? Call me Robert. She sat across from me. I wanted to thank you. What you did tonight. Emma would be gone if you hadn't stopped. How is she? Physically, she'll heal. Some bruising, signs of malnutrition, but nothing permanent. Psychologically, Hayes paused. She hasn't spoken a word. Not to doctors, not to social workers, not to anyone. Trauma'll do that. The drawing she gave you. We think we know what it is. I leaned forward. Tell me. 3 years ago, a girl named Sophie Winters disappeared from a truck stop in Ontario. She was 6. Never found. 2 years ago, a boy named Marcus Chen, also 6, disappeared from a rest area in Manitoba. Never found. Last year, 2 more children. Different provinces, different truck stops, but all along the same corridor. Highway 1, stretching from Ontario to BC. My coffee went cold in my hands. They're using the truck stops as transfer points. We think there's a network. Truckers moving children across provincial lines, using their legitimate cargo as cover. By the time anyone realizes a child is missing, the truck is 3 provinces away. And Dale? Dale Carver. Real name Dalton Kowalski. He's got a record. Assault, trafficking charges from 10 years ago. Served 4 years. Been off the radar since he got out. Until tonight. You think he's working alone? Hayes met my eyes. No. We think he's one of many. And Emma's drawing suggests they've got a location. Somewhere they keep the children before moving them. The barn. The barn with that symbol. We've got analysts going through satellite imagery of every property within 500 kilometers of where Emma was found. But it's a lot of ground to cover. I can help. Robert, you've done enough. You should go home. Get some rest. I've been driving these roads for 42 years. I know every truck stop, every rest area, every place a truck can pull off without being seen. I know where the dead zones are, where cell service drops out. I know this highway better than anyone. Hayes studied me. You have a daughter who died. It wasn't a question. Melissa, I said. She was 16. Drunk driver hit her on her way home from a friend's house. I was on the road when it happened. Couldn't even get to the hospital in time to say goodbye. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Just let me help find these kids. Hayes was quiet for a long moment. Then she pulled out her phone. There's someone you should talk to. 10 minutes later, I was in the back of an RCMP cruiser heading to Regina. In the passenger seat was Detective Margaret Whitmore, a woman in her 50s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Constable Hayes says, "You know the highways," she said without preamble. "Every inch from Windsor to Vancouver. Emma's drawing shows a triangle with a circle inside. Does that symbol mean anything to you?" I thought about it. 42 years of road signs, company logos, graffiti on overpasses. There's an old grain cooperative that used to use that symbol. Tri-Circle Grain. They went bankrupt in the 90s. Most of their buildings abandoned. Whitmore turned in her seat. Where? All over Saskatchewan and Manitoba. They had maybe 20 locations. Can you narrow it down? I closed my eyes, picturing the highway, the stops I'd made over the years. Dale was heading east when you spotted him. If he dumped his truck 40 kilometers out, he was trying to get somewhere fast, somewhere close. But he abandoned the truck, Whitmore said. So he didn't make it. Or he did make it. And the truck was just a decoy. Whitmore's phone rang. She answered, listened, then hung up. K9 units lost his scent at the truck. No trail. Either he got in another vehicle, or he's holed up somewhere nearby. What's near Range Road 142? Farmland, abandoned homesteads, not much else. Something clicked. Wait, there was a tri-circle facility off 142, about 10 kilometers north of the highway. I used to stop there in the 80s to pick up grain. Building's been empty for 30 years. Whitmore was already on her radio. I need satellite imagery of Range Road 142, approximately 10 kilometers north of Highway 1. Looking for an abandoned grain facility. We drove in silence. I watched the prairie scroll past, endless and flat under the gray October sky. Somewhere out there, children were trapped, scared, waiting for someone to find them. We reached the RCMP detachment in Regina by noon. Inside, the task force had set up a command center. Maps on the walls, photos of missing children, computer screens showing satellite imagery. A young officer waved us over. "Detective Whitmore." We found it. On the screen was an aerial view of an old building complex. 2 large structures, probably the main grain storage, a smaller building that might have been an office, and a barn, set apart from the others, with a faded symbol barely visible on its roof. A triangle with a circle inside. "That's it," I said. Whitmore studied the image. It's isolated. No nearby roads except the range road. Perfect place to hide. What's the plan? Tactical team goes in at dusk. We'll have the element of surprise. What if Dale's already warned them? What if they're moving the kids right now? We don't have a choice. We need to do this right. If we go in half-cocked and they scatter, we might never find them. I understood the logic. But logic didn't ease the knot in my stomach. Whitmore must have seen something in my face because she said, "Robert, I know this is hard, but we're professionals. We'll get those children out. I want to be there." Absolutely not. I found Emma. I'm the only one who can identify Dale for certain. And if there are kids in there who are traumatized like Emma, they might respond better to a familiar face. You're a civilian. I'm a witness. And I'm not asking permission. Whitmore stared at me. Then, surprisingly, she smiled. "You know, my daughter's boyfriend is a long-haul trucker. Stubborn as hell. Reminds me of you." She sighed. "Fine, but you stay in the command vehicle. You don't enter that building unless I explicitly clear you. Understood?" Understood. We spent the next 6 hours planning. The tactical team assembled. 12 officers, heavily armed, trained for hostage situations. They studied the building layout, planned entry points, discussed contingencies. I sat in the corner and thought about Emma, about her silence, about the drawing she'd given me, about the 7 other figures in those cages. At 5:30, as the sun began to set, we convoyed out to Range Road 142. 4 cruisers, 1 tactical van, and an ambulance. Just in case. The range road was unpaved gravel, rutted from spring thaw and summer rain. We drove slowly, lights off, relying on the fading daylight. When we were half a kilometer from the target, we stopped. Whitmore turned to me. Last chance to stay behind. I'm coming. We approached on foot, spreading out through the dried grass and scrub brush. The grain facility loomed ahead, skeletal against the darkening sky. The main buildings were clearly abandoned, windows broken, walls weathered to gray. But the barn looked different, newer. Someone had maintained it. The tactical team moved into position. I stayed behind with Whitmore and 2 other officers, crouched behind an old tractor trailer that had been left to rust decades ago. Through binoculars, I watched the barn. No lights, no movement. For a moment, I thought we were wrong, that this was just another abandoned building. Then I saw it, a flicker of light through a crack in the wall. Just for a second, someone was inside. Whitmore saw it too. She radioed the team. We have signs of occupancy. Proceed with caution. The team moved in, silent as ghosts. They reached the barn door. One officer tried the handle. Locked. He signaled to the breacher. That's when all hell broke loose. The barn door exploded outward, and Dale Carver came through it with a shotgun. He fired twice, buckshot tearing through the air. The officers scattered, returning fire. Dale dove behind a rusted grain silo, still shooting. "Hold fire!" Whitmore screamed into her radio. "There may be children inside." The shooting stopped. An eerie silence fell over the compound, broken only by the wind whistling through the broken buildings. "Dalton Kowalski," Whitmore called out. "This is the RCMP. You're surrounded. Put down the weapon." Dale's voice came from behind the silo. "You don't understand what you're messing with. This is bigger than you. Bigger than all of you. We know about the children, Dale. We know what you've been doing. It's over. It's never over. There are more of us. You shut down one operation. 3 more. Open up. You think you're saving them? You're just moving them to the next cage." Whitmore looked at me. In her eyes, I saw the same sick realization I felt. This wasn't just about Dale. This was about something much larger. "Let the children go, Dale. Whatever happens to you, let them walk away. They're not mine to let go." "Then whose are they?" Dale laughed. A broken, desperate sound. "Ask the mayor. Ask the sheriff. Ask all the good people who turn a blind eye because it keeps them rich." Before anyone could respond, there was movement from the barn. The door, damaged from Dale's explosive exit, creaked open, and a child stepped out. A little boy, maybe 6 years old, thin, dirty, blinking in the fading light like he hadn't seen the sun in months. Then another child, a girl, slightly older. Then another. They kept coming. 7 children total, just like Emma's drawing. The tactical team moved immediately, officers scooping up the children, rushing them away from the line of fire. I saw Constable Hayes among them, tears streaming down her face as she carried a little girl who couldn't have been more than 4. Dale saw them too, and something broke in him. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice cracking. "I'm so sorry." Then he stepped out from behind the silo, shotgun hanging loose in his hands. "Put it down, Dale," Whitmore ordered. He looked at the children being carried away, at the officers surrounding him, at the life he'd chosen and the choices he couldn't undo. "I was one of them," he said quietly. "When I was 7, a man who drove trucks did to me what I did to them, and I told myself I'd never be like him. But here I am. Put down the weapon, Dale." He raised the shotgun, not at the officers, at himself. 3 shots rang out. Dale fell. The shotgun clattered on the ground beside him. I closed my eyes, but I could still see it, could still hear the echo of those shots across the empty prairie. Whitmore was on her radio, calling for the ambulance, but we all knew it was too late. The tactical team secured the area. Officers entered the barn, documenting everything. I walked toward the children. They'd been gathered near the ambulance, wrapped in blankets, being checked by paramedics. Most of them were silent, staring at nothing, traumatized beyond words. But one little boy saw me, and recognition flickered in his eyes. He said something to Hayes, who looked up at me in surprise. "Robert," she called. "This is Marcus. Marcus Chen, missing for 2 years." I knelt down beside him. "Hey, buddy, you're the truck driver," he said. His voice was small and hoarse from disuse. "That's right. Emma said you'd come. She drew a picture of you. Said you were going to save us." My throat tightened. "Emma's safe. She's in Regina. She's going to be okay. And so are you." He nodded slowly. Then, like Emma had done, he threw his arms around me and held on. The other children watched. Slowly, one by one, they moved closer, seeking comfort from a stranger because strangers had been the only ones who'd tried to help. I held them, all 7 of them, and I thought about my daughter Melissa, who I couldn't save, about Emma, who I could, about the impossible, terrible randomness of who gets saved and who doesn't. Whitmore approached. "Robert, we found something else in the barn." She led me inside. The smell hit me first. Urine, sweat, fear. The main room had indeed had cages, just like Emma's drawing, but they were empty now. Against the far wall was a desk with a laptop. An officer was scrolling through files. "It's a network," the officer said. "Contacts across 6 provinces. Locations. Names. Some of them are." He paused, his face grim. "Prominent people. Politicians. Business owners. Police." Whitmore's jaw tightened. Dale was telling the truth. "This is bigger than we thought." Over the next 3 days, I stayed in Regina. I gave statements. I identified Dale's body. I sat with Emma in the hospital while she slowly, painfully, began to speak again. Just a few words at first, then sentences. Her voice was like rustling paper, unused and fragile. She told them about the barn, about the other locations she'd been taken, about the faces she'd seen. Some of them were on the laptop, some weren't. The investigation grew. Arrests were made. A police sergeant in Manitoba, a city councillor in Saskatchewan, a trucking company owner in Ontario. The network was unraveling, one thread at a time. But there were still children missing, still locations undiscovered. The fight wasn't over. On the 4th day, Whitmore found me in the hospital cafeteria. "We're organizing a task force," she said, "federal level. We need people who know the highways, who can spot the patterns. Constable Hayes recommended you." "I'm not a cop." "No, but you're someone who stops when a child needs help. That's rarer than you'd think." I looked through the window at the gray Regina sky. I thought about going back to my truck, back to the road, back to the empty apartment in Winnipeg where I'd been living alone since Melissa died. Then I thought about Emma, about Marcus, about the 5 other children who were now safe because I'd chosen to pay attention. What would I be doing? Consulting, helping us understand how the network operates, identifying likely transfer points, and maybe, if we're lucky, finding more children before it's too late. I picked up my coffee. For the first time in 4 days, it was still hot when I drank it. It tasted like hope. "When do I start?" Whitmore smiled. "Already did." 6 months later, I was in a conference room in Ottawa, pointing at a map. Red pins marked confirmed trafficking locations. Blue pins marked suspected ones. Yellow pins marked children we'd recovered. There were 37 yellow pins now. 37 children who'd been found, rescued, returned to families, or placed in protective care. 37 lives saved. But there were still so many red pins. So many blue ones. Emma came to visit me once, with her foster family. She was speaking more now, though she still had nightmares. Still woke up thinking she was back in the cage. She drew me a picture. This one showed a truck driver, standing between children and darkness. "That's you," she said. "That's us," I corrected. "All of us working together." She thought about that. Then she added more figures to the drawing. Constable Hayes, Detective Whitmore, the other officers, the social workers and doctors and foster parents, an army of people who'd chosen to care. She signed it at the bottom. Emma Sutherland. I looked at her foster mother in surprise. "She asked if she could take your last name," the woman explained gently. "Said you were her family now. We thought, if you were okay with it." I couldn't speak, could only nod. Emma hugged me. "Thank you for stopping," she whispered. I held her tight. "Thank you for being brave enough to ask for help." That night, I sat in my hotel room and looked at the map on my laptop. Red pins, blue pins, yellow pins, a web of pain and hope stretching across the country. My phone buzzed. A text from Whitmore. Possible sighting, Highway 17, Northern Ontario. Girl matching description of Lily Patterson. Missing since last November. Can you advise on truck stop patterns in that area? I pulled up my files. 42 years of routes, stops, patterns. I knew Highway 17. Knew the dead zones, the isolated rest areas, the places where trucks could disappear. I typed out my response, sent it, then opened a new document and started writing. Notes, observations, everything I'd learned about how these networks operated. Because Dale had been right about one thing. This was bigger than any of us. But that didn't mean we stopped fighting. It meant we fought smarter. Together, using every tool, every connection, every piece of knowledge we had. I thought about that night at the Flying J truck stop. About the choice I'd made to pay attention, to care, to act. Most people would have walked past her. But I'm not most people. I'm a father who lost his daughter. A truck driver who knows these roads. A man who believes that the measure of a life isn't what you prevent, but what you do when prevention fails. I'm someone who stops, and I'll keep stopping, for every Emma, every Marcus, every child who needs someone to see them. Because that's what you do. You stop, you help, you fight, and you never, ever give up. The coffee's cold now. It always is. But I'll finish it anyway, same as I'll finish this case, and the next one, and the one after that. Because somewhere out there, on some dark highway, there's a child who needs someone to pay attention. And I'll be there. I'll always be there, ready to stop.